At 19, standing in a packed courtroom, Jalen faced charges that could ruin his future. The courtroom was tense, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. All eyes were on him, on the young man who was accused of a crime he swore he didn't commit. The judge smirked. The prosecutor was ready to close the book. He was confident they had a slam-dunk case. The evidence looked airtight. There was no doubt in anyone's mind, Jalen was guilty. But then Jalen did something no one expected. He didn't just sit there. He didn't bow his head and accept his fate. He fought back. Not with money, not with fancy lawyers, but with his knowledge, his voice. He turned the entire case on its head and left the courtroom speechless. The smirk the judge's hands was sweaty as he stood there, facing a judge who already seemed to have made up his mind. Judge Foster was no friend to the accused, and Jalen knew it. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man named Daniel Richards, stood tall beside him, ready to bring this case to a close. "Young man, you re-accused of hacking into a high-profile company's secure system and stealing millions of dollars worth of data," the judge said, his voice cold and condescending. "You've pleaded not guilty, but the evidence against you is clear. Do you really think you can win this?" Jalen didn't flinch, not even a little. "I'm not guilty, Your Honor," Jalen said, his voice steady, "and I can prove it." The room erupted into hushed whispers. The judge's smirk grew wider. "Prove it? With what, exactly?" Judge Foster said, leaning back in his chair. "Your defense is flimsy at best. The evidence is airtight." Jalen felt a knot tighten in his chest. His hands were shaking, but he refused to show weakness. The prosecution had presented their case, emails, fingerprints, server logs, all pointing to him as the culprit. Everyone in the room believed it. Everyone but him. Jalen knew he was up against impossible odds. The prosecution had done their homework, but Jalen had done his too. He wasn't going to let them walk all over him. When it was his turn to speak, the room fell silent. "I don't have a fancy lawyer to speak for me," Jalen began. "But I don't need one. I'm not here to beg for mercy. I'm here to prove the truth." The judge's expression hardened. "Get to the point, Mr. Harris." Jalen took a deep breath. "The evidence you have, it's been tampered with." A ripple of surprise ran through the room. People shifted in their seats, murmuring under their breath. "Objection." Prosecutor Richards snapped. "This is pure speculation." Jalen stood firm, locking eyes with the prosecutor. "Not speculation. Fact." Jalen didn't just defend himself. He attacked. He began pointing out inconsistencies in the evidence, detailing flaws in the way the logs had been processed. He quoted laws, precedents, and technical aspects of cybersecurity that left the prosecutor stumbling to keep up. "The timestamps in the server logs don't match the time of the breach," Jalen said, pulling up an image on the court screen. "The data that supposedly links me to the crime was recorded at a time when I was nowhere near the company's building. And this," he continued, clicking a button, "shows that the system was accessed from a completely different IP address." The prosecutor's face turned pale. He glanced nervously at his team. Jalen didn't stop there. "And the emails? They were sent from a disposable email address. It's a basic mistake, and someone clearly wanted to frame me." Jalen had only just begun, and the courtroom was already in a state of shock. People whispered, exchanged confused glances. The prosecution's airtight case was crumbling before their eyes. But then the real twist came. Jalen pulled out a flash drive from his pocket and tossed it onto the judge's desk. "This," he said calmly, "is the backup I found. The original system logs. The ones that haven't been altered. I've already submitted them to the court clerk. If you take a look, you'll see who the real hacker is." Judge Foster's brow furrowed as he picked up the flash drive. The prosecutor looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Your Honor, I can't," the prosecutor stuttered. "You can't be serious." But Jalen was. The backup logs revealed a shocking truth. The hack hadn't been committed by Jalen at all. It had been orchestrated by someone much closer to home. Jalen leaned forward, his voice quiet but filled with authority. The real hacker. Someone working behind the scenes. "You see, the IP address matches the one used to access the company's server from the office building when the breach occurred." The room was dead silent. Even the judge looked stunned. The room exploded into chaos. People jumped to their feet, shouting, pointing fingers. "You're accusing me." The prosecutor finally managed to say, his voice trembling. Jalen stood tall. "You were the one who planted the evidence. You thought you could hide behind your position, but I saw through it." Judge Foster slammed his gavel down. "Order! Order in the court!" But no one was listening. The tension in the air was palpable. Jalen didn't care. He had done what no one thought was possible. He had exposed the truth. But even then, the game wasn't over. The judge adjourned the trial for the day, sending everyone home. But there was one question hanging in the air. What would happen next? Scene 5. The cliffhanger the next morning. The courtroom was filled with reporters, lawyers, and spectators, all waiting for the bombshell ruling. Would the charges be dropped? Would the person behind the evidence tampering be arrested? But when Jalen walked into the room, there was something different. A feeling of dread in the air. Before the trial could continue, a loud crash echoed from the back of the courtroom. A man in a black suit walked down the aisle. He was tall, intimidating, and his eyes locked onto Jalen with an unsettling gaze. He held up a piece of paper, an official court document, and said, "Jalen Harris, you've just uncovered something much bigger than you realize. The people behind this case, they're not done with you yet." Jalen's heart skipped a beat. His mouth went dry. Who was this man? And why was he warning him? As the man handed the judge the paper, he whispered, "You've been marked." Jalen stood there, stunned. The room seemed to close in on him, the clock ticking louder in his ears. And then, just as the judge was about to speak, the courtroom lights flickered. The man in the black suit vanished without a trace. Jalen's future wasn't just uncertain now, it was in danger. What was this shadowy figure's warning about? And who else was involved in this conspiracy? Stay tuned to find out what happens next in Jalen's story. Don't miss out on the next thrilling chapter. Subscribe now. If you enjoyed this intense courtroom drama, you'll love our other stories about smart teens taking on the system. Check out these awesome videos and see how quick thinking and intelligence can help overcome even the toughest challenges. And if you want more stories about Jalen, let us know by hitting the like button. Your support helps us create more great content. So don't forget to subscribe for more exciting adventures. Thanks for watching.